Hi, Aditya. Hi, Manish. Um, I was expecting a few more people to attend, so I'm thinking there may have just been a conflict with some of those individuals, which is totally fine. Um, if it's just going to be us three, I guess we'll just do a brief overview since I know you guys are pretty familiar with what's going on in the Python SDK already. I don't think there would be anything new that I need to tell you guys. But I'll just give it like another minute or two, see if we get anybody else. And then if we don't get anybody else, are you guys okay to postpone for next time? Feel free to type it in the chat or just do a thumbs up if you can't talk, no worries. Okay. All right. Um, so I'll wait until about like 9:06. In the meantime, were there any questions anybody had? Congratulations to Manish on becoming a maintainer. Super awesome. And of course, Aditya, did you have any questions? Or Manish, was there anything that you wanted to bring up? Again, if you can't talk, feel free to type it in chat, no problem. Or just put a thumbs up if you're good to go and there's nothing that you'd like to address. About the only thing.
Nothing from my side.
Okay. No, that's fine, Aditya. Thank you for being here. I'm going to assume that you're good to go if you didn't have anything to bring up. So I guess I will just give it another minute or so. Um, if not, then we'll just Oh, hi, Sophie. We were just discussing maybe postponing the meeting since everybody here is pretty familiar with what's going on in the SDK. Um, I don't think we're going to have anybody else. I've been here for a little bit. So far, it's just been me, Aditya, and Manish. Was that okay with you, or was there anything that you wanted to bring up with the SDK?
We have like a really urgent problem with the release.
Okay.
But to do the release, we need to fix the versioning of the project. Yeah, basically this is the issue that right now we force users to use specific package versions. And we tell them that they can't use 3.14. There's a reason for that. I think some time ago I tried to do 3.14 and then it failed like the URL check or something from the security team. So this test was just like not running. So I couldn't make it work at the time. But because of this, we can't really do a new release because if we update the protobuf and we set it to like a new version and everything like this, people that use other packages, not just the Python SDK, like let's say I'm making like an AI tool or whatever, and I'm going to be importing a certain AI package, maybe it requires some other thing. So then you can't use the new release. So I think like if we have this, we're going to have to break users. So Manish has been working on a pull request, but I think we need to talk about like how comfortable do we want to be with the versions that are being selected. So one of the questions that I have like for Manish is like in the versions that you've selected, have you been able to research like which of them have like no known security threats and stuff like that? Because we would have to like avoid them. Because I noticed like some of these are like very different to what there currently is. So I just want to check like if these are all safe, and then if they are all deemed to be safe, like possibly things you could choose. Then I think we need to just check if the project itself builds at each of the edges. But I don't know, I wanted to hear like Manish's thought. But basically this is the problem that we have. I think it's not a good idea to do a new release until we resolve this. But we're kind of learning as we're going, so we need to figure out, do we need to add some more workflows or something?
Manish, my question for you would also be the addition that you have here with the greater than and equals to. Does that solve a majority of the dependency issues for users, or are they still encountering a lot of errors?
Actually, I think it solves the majority of the problem, but like I'm totally not sure about that. I have like selected them like the last version which got the CVE, so like they are one more above that. So like I'm like also not sure about if this will cover everything for the user.
Yeah, so I think protobuf 7, for example, doesn't exist. Yeah, right. So it's just like Manish is just adding like a few major versions to it, which I think is reasonable enough. We don't know yet if like they're gonna be safe releases and stuff, but I guess we need to give people the flexibility and then exclude them later if we need to. And then so I noticed, so some of the things we moved to optional dependencies, I think this we need to be just very careful with. Everything's a lot easier if you just have them in like the core dependencies, because everyone like builds the project in the same way. But this can be helpful if you have like project conflicts and stuff, and not all of the things are essential. And then if we do this, like we are changing the way things are done. So we would have to document it like a lot to tell people how to actually install all of these things. So we need like a README entry or something, and like a note in the new release or something saying like, yeah, to install this and to install everything, you're gonna have to do like these optional flags and everything like that. Manish, how are you thinking of handling the
Yeah,
optional flag?
actually like the optional are mostly needed for like the testing, and I think so for the example purposes. So I think like adding it to the documentation will be fine.
Yeah, okay. It's not possible to add like a warning, right? Like this is not installed. Use this command to install it.
Like we then we like need to update the example and the test to check if the dependencies
Yeah.
install or not. Like that can be like an extra additional step we can add.
Are we able to test it? Kind of like similarly to when we do dry runs for the workflows. Would we be able to quote unquote dry run this to see what kind of errors it does cause and then just document them in the PR and update the README as needed? Because I noticed that I say this because of my issues with Windows for the other SDKs. I've noticed not every user encounters the same error, especially when it comes to Windows. Some of
Oh,
them
we
are
might need Windows build flows, right, Angie?
Yep, yes, you're definitely going to need those because I can already tell that some of these are probably going to cause issues, especially for our Windows 10 users. Windows 11, I'm not sure to be quite honest with everybody. I don't have a Windows 11 operating system, so as of now, I'm just operating off of what I know for 10. And if there are going to be build errors, we are definitely going to want to update the README. At a certain point, if there are too many, we may want to section off the README in the way that we have for the website, where we have separate setup guides.
Yeah.
Big,
Yeah. So do you mean like right now this is like the thing for the project, but have you had to like install additional things or different things somehow?
So not necessarily anything different. It's just in the way that we go about it. So I think on a MacBook, you're able to use Homebrew. So you would do like Homebrew install and then like PyTest, for example. On a Windows machine, Homebrew doesn't work, but unfortunately, a couple of the other commands that documentation sites are listing do not work as well. So users on Windows machines, when they install PyTest, it's not as easy as it is on compared to other operating systems because Windows does not resolve paths correctly. So it tends to lead uh, basically tends to lead users down a rabbit hole, so to speak. So I do know off the top of my head, PyTest is definitely one of the ones Windows users struggle with. Beyond that,
Okay.
looking.
I think we should write this down. Should we write this down on the Linux Discord? Stuff that we need to do, right?
Yeah, we can. I just don't know because we haven't. I don't know. Maybe test it first because I don't know if people in the Linux Discord would try to like help us solve it, which is good. I'm not saying that's bad. I just I I wouldn't know how to go about it if they had any other further questions because I haven't tested it before and I have some of these dependencies already installed, so I won't encounter the same errors as before, and I don't have screenshots of them either. But I guess go ahead and post something in the Discord just because with the amount of new people that we're having, we're bound to have somebody with a Windows computer who is going to run into these dependency issues. Worst comes to worst, I'll just have them ping me directly and I'll work through it with them. But I think for now, yeah, we can go ahead and post something in there.
I think maybe I'll put them on the Zoom chat and then copy them over afterwards, so I don't do like one individual message. So first
Okay.
action, what we need to do is update the README with
The
instructions managed, right? Instructions on how to install like the groups, the dependency groups.
Yeah.
yeah.
That has to be super, super clear, super easy instructions.
Yeah.
Depending on what you are doing, depending on what you want. And then what else do we need to do? Action two was like we need to have like a Windows setup guides to explain to users how to install these packages.
Yes, that's the other thing. So for the README, we have to decide on how do we want to do this in the terms, do we want to section it off like we do for the website where we have separate setup guides, or did we want to leave it as is and just maybe make like a custom section for each operating system setup? I personally am on the side of just having separate documentation. Just
Yeah,
be,
just keep it separate. Yeah.
yeah. I feel like it just makes it easier and it's clear and nobody's getting confused about things that are needed for like other operating systems and stuff like that.
Okay,
Um,
so let's assume we have the existing documentation for Mac, so we could just like leave it as that just to
okay.
like reduce the task. So it would just be creating a Windows one. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah,
fine.
in the long term, we're gonna need a Mac one.
Yeah.
And then what else do we need? So there's a
Uh,
workflow, that tests. Oh man, trying to find these workflows. Workflow. Is gonna be
do you know what the name is? You
with
probably, oh, there it is. Oh, which one? Oh, okay.
this one. So this is the one. So it was really easy to update this to just 3.4 or 3.14. You just add it in.
Okay.
And then that automatically tests if all the unit tests and the integration tests pass. And you can kind of install all these things. for that. So I think we just need to update PR check test. Let me write that down. So action 3, update PR check test YAML to include Python 3.14. Added, what is the issue with the Windows setup?
So right now the issue with Windows setup is that for certain dependencies, they do not install properly, especially like for example, when you hit npm install, it installs everything. But unfortunately, when we're running similar kinds of commands like that on Windows, it's not installing everything that we need. Users are encountering path resolution errors. They're encountering operating system breaking changes and stuff like that. So we've come to the conclusion that it is better to create separate documentation files, especially because Windows also has OS 11. So those users are going to encounter a different set of errors all on their own when they are trying to set this up. So we felt it best to kind of consolidate the documentation or so to speak, separate it out where there's a straightforward guide for anybody using Windows, there will be a straightforward guide for anybody using Mac, and then there will be a guide for Linux, sorry, when we get there. But as of right now, Aditya, to answer it plain and simple, it's just a lot of users when they're setting it up, they're running into a lot of errors. So we felt it best. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, sorry, I was like distracted. Edit says we do have UV and even pip install.
Yeah, so I had issues with UV. I run a Windows 10. The way that I had to go about installing UV, I think Sophie, you were part of this with me when we were first doing this. We had all kinds of issues trying to set it up on my machine. We tried it through Ubuntu, Git Bash, PowerShell, this command prompt, almost every terminal I can possibly think of, and it just was not installing. So I had to go in. I think I had to install Chocolatey, and then Chocolatey let me get UV, and then UV allowed me to do pip install and so forth. So for lack of a better word, it's basically dependencies require another thing, but then that other thing requires another thing, but then that other thing requires something else. So it's kind of like a domino effect where you're having one required dependency after another on Windows, which is it's an unfortunate experience because it just makes it a little harder to get started. So that is why we are wanting to do our best to document everything that we possibly can, every error they could potentially encounter. That way they can have an easier onboarding process as compared to some of our other Windows users. Does that help answer your question? If you're typing or I know you can't speak, I'll keep an eye out on the chat. But I think Sophie, oh, okay, wait. Mac. Yes, I have heard of Winget. I've had issues with Winget on my system for whatever reason. I come into path resolution errors. Um,
I'm
yeah.
confused. So Edit, yeah, like do you use Windows 11?
Yeah, or are you on Mac?
Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm in Windows 11 right.
You're Windows 11?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I'm Windows 10, so for that's good though. So if Winget works for you, it tells me right there that the Windows 11 users are going to have a much easier time compared to Windows 10. Um, so I will keep that in mind. I may want to possibly
No,
update the. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, like package manager for the Windows is pretty much what to say. It's broken because in Linux we have single command for every package managers, and like in Macs we have Homebrew, so we can download each and every dependency easily. Windows is just broken. So I
Yeah.
must say that we should write in the end of our Windows setup that use Linux instead.
Yes, I have had to end up using Linux for certain things. I have
Yes, yes.
or I think I have Ubuntu. I'm sorry. I have Ubuntu on here. It's like the WSL integration, and I've had to use
Right.
that for some of the installs. I've been able to kind of get lucky with that in the sense I can use it to get around the errors and install it and then go back to PowerShell and rerun it, and that seems to kind of like kickstarted almost.
Yeah,
But yes, I do see what you're saying. Windows is
I agree.
definitely broken.
Like, means working with the CPP, sorry, the C++ SDK, I was having pretty much hard time with it for every setup. I had
Yeah.
no clue how to do that, so I guess
Yeah, I
pretty much good.
can't believe you guys had to use like VS Studio 2022.
Oh, yes, we
So random.
Yes, but on the other hand, it's good that we're surfacing some of these errors sooner than later, especially with the Good First Issue initiative bringing in so many people. I don't want Windows set up to be something that deters them away from working on this. It is very possible to do on Windows. It's an unfortunate experience that it's a little bit harder compared to somebody who would be using a Mac system, but I do see what you're saying. I struggled with so many issues with C++. plus plus. I am actually still working through the issues with C++. plus plus. Unfortunately, Solo is not working for Windows users. It's killing port forwarding for some reason. So I do have somebody looking into that from the Solo team. So if you are still experiencing issues with C++, plus plus, don't worry, you're not alone. I do have somebody looking on it. I'm waiting for them. I have not heard anything back from them yet. Um, and then the same with JavaScript. I'm not sure if you've tried building JavaScript on your Windows machine. If you
Yeah,
do,
I heard that I had a problem as well.
yes, I'm coming to the realization that a majority of the SDKs they're not set up for Windows. And on one hand, it is unfortunate because there is no documentation clearly outlining the setup process for Windows. But on the other hand, it's a good thing because a majority of people, it seems like, that do this kind of work have a MacBook. So there hasn't really been a need for this kind of documentation to be present. However, with the onboarding of all of these new contributors, people coming out of uni, we are noticing that there are certain people, quite a few actually, who are using Windows systems. But it's a good thing because it's ultimately help us surface some of the issues we've been trying to tackle for these last couple of weeks. I know this is a Python SDK's call, but for the website, they also had issues setting up on Windows. The script that they have in JSON, it's not Windows compatible. When you do npm install, it doesn't install everything. It turns out that you need to install Tailwind CSS something something differently. I can't remember what the exact annotation for that is. Cross env has to be installed separately, and rimaf also needs to be installed separately. These are the dependencies that do not come combined with npm install. It's unfortunate because most Windows users, their thinking is that npm install does do everything, but it doesn't. But it's also kind of good because it's given us a window of light into what's really going on. How can we fix this? So we were fortunate. We were able to fix that website issue pretty quickly. So we have a separate guide. Windows users can get set up super easily now. We are still keeping an eye out just in case there are any other issues Windows users encounter, but as of right now, things seem to be pretty good so far. But back to the JavaScript one, if you end up installing that on there on your computer, please let me know if you run into any issues. I am working with one of the JavaScript maintainers right now to try to fix those Windows issues. So even if it's a path resolution issue, if it's a bug that you find or just an error that you've not seen before, let me know. That way we can kind of maybe make a group of the three of us to outline what's going on with Windows, specifically in the Java SDK. But yeah, that's kind of a brief, well, I shouldn't say brief, sorry, it took so long, but kind of an overview with what's going on with the SDKs for Windows right now. I'm still working through them, hoping to have some of them resolved soon. And keep an eye out for the Hiero website because when those issues are resolved, the Hiero website will be the go-to place to learn how we did it and get some more information on it. So, but yeah, that's
It's super great work that you're doing, Angie.
thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, it's not good to just kind of like let these things slide with no one noticing or doing anything about it.
Yeah.
So back to the release, I was just thinking
hmm
like, okay, so we need to make sure that Python 3.14 is here. I'm just checking like, so what does this do? It sets up Python, it builds the project basically. So we might have to change this flag, Manish, this line 45 possibly.
No, I think like
I
that
think
that
that will
works.
include everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe should we split it into so that the user can see that you would like have to maybe do it in stages depending what you're doing. I don't know, but I think this workflow kind of does everything anyway. Right? Do we need to test the new build? Oh no, actually, I was thinking if we need like a minimum and maximum build
Uh,
because
we
it
can
doesn't.
like try for the minimum one.
Yeah, would that be like a workflow that only triggers in certain contexts? Like only triggers if it's like on a certain release branch or something? Because yeah, if you are doing all of these, have you tested that they all work yet at like the lower bounds and at the higher possible bounds?
I think like we should like add a workflow for that as well.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work. I assume you'd have to maybe test the middle range as well. I don't know. Like maybe there's a way of just figuring out which combinations of things would break, but maybe that's just too much. Maybe the easiest thing is just do minimum max edits.
Aditya, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, like I have one doubt, means why do we use the version here? Why can't we just write the name of the depth and we just go ahead? Do we really require?
Sorry,
Because I guess
would you could I interrupt you? Is it possible that you could speak either a little bit slower or a little bit louder? Because I think your mic is just really quiet. Um,
Yes, you're. Oh,
your
sorry.
audio isn't great. It's really hard
Yeah.
to hear you.
Yeah, if you want, please feel free to type it in chat if you can't change your settings or maybe if it's an internet issue. We just want to make sure that we understand clearly what you're asking so we can provide you a good answer.
Yeah, or just louder is fine. Why
Oh,
do
was
we require the versions? So basically, this is not working for some of our Python SDK users. So we've done a really good job at attracting SDK developers, but our SDK users are having problems because we are forcing them to have certain package versions. And quite often, when you're building an app, you're using things, you're using many things, not just the Python SDK. You're using like an AI tool, you're using some other things. And then what that means is that they might conflict. One tool might require you to have protobuf 6.5. This one requires you to have protobuf 6.33. And so you can't use the new version. You can't use this version. So we're trying to make a new release. But in this new release, we want to make sure that it's user friendly for the SDK users. So it's really good that we're having SDK users now coming into the project, and now they're creating their own issues and they're letting us know like what they need. So I love that, but we need to be careful because this is like an easy way to break people if the project doesn't build or something like that. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, got it. Okay, so that means, Manish, are you okay creating the workflow to test the minimum and max builds?
Yeah, I can go ahead. and create the workflow.
I don't know how to trigger that. Maybe it would only be on workflow. No, I don't want it to run all the time, right?
Yeah, we can like use it for like when the pull request is raised or something like that.
Or like only when this file changes. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, yeah, I should like check for that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, nice. So then the other issue with making a release is finding out how safe our release is. Okay, I have like way too many things going on my computer at the moment. So I didn't really expect our release to take such a long time, but it has. Basically, what this has meant is our changelog entry is absolutely huge. I have never seen something like this before. And some sections are better than others and things. I think if you're a user thinking of upgrading to this latest version, you're going to get very scared. You'll get very scared because there's so many things that have happened and it's hard to see like what is actually possibly going to, what's actually like a source code change, what's like a documentation change, and stuff like that. So, and also what could possibly break whatever thing you have. So I was wondering if I have to refactor these entries and categorize them into like source code changes or additions, example changes and additions, test changes, so then people know, okay, there's all these changes that have happened to the source code. These are the things that can, you know, change the functionality. All these other things are just probably doc changes. I don't necessarily want to do that because then I lose all the history. Right now we can see who added all of these lines and everything. So that's one issue, like how do we actually present the unreleased content? And then when we make a new release, yeah.
So like for every changes in the change log, we do have their paths, right? So why can't we just hello?
Yeah, in the changelog we have addition,
Uh,
we have changes, we have fixes. But there's hundreds
I
of
didn't
lines.
get means. Yeah, yeah. So like our main issue is that we can't categorize the change logs, right?
Yeah, the original categories for changes and things don't work really well when you have like a really, really big changelog.
Okay, so means why can't we just do in the what do you say in smaller chunks? Like we can release of first half in the like a minor release, then the second half in the minor release, and then make a big release. Or
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out how I can engineer a release where I separate out like, I don't know, the docs from the rest of it or something. So then people could upgrade to version 0.1.11 in like a much less risky way. And it's done like over 2 releases, not one. But there's actually no way of doing that. As far as I figured out, let me try and show you. Is you can only go back certain number of commits. You can only go back, your release can only be like 10 commits back. So
oh,
the
okay.
idea that I
Yes.
can release something in December 27th content is just not something available. So we are forced to do the entire release, basically, I think. In the future, maybe we can work from branches and things, but yeah, so let's say we were looking for like the recent 3-hour thing. This is pretty nice that it kind of generates release note. But as a new user, you are so scared of this. So many things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was maybe another idea I had is like Rob had this idea. He found a breaking change that we didn't pick up on by posting the difference between 0.1.10 and 0.1.11 and pushing that through an AI. Yeah, I don't know if it's possible to like prompt an AI or something, but yeah, making this new release is kind of like the focus at the moment, and it's also not going to be, there's not much that we can do to fix things. All we can do is kind of
Like
like
you are like,
test.
sorry to interrupt. Like we are just comparing the versions from the previous changelog to this changelog, right? And the
Yeah.
AI you are talking about is just looking for the latest changelog, which is I guess it's for it's of 800 lines, I guess, or 1,000 lines. I don't know.
Yeah, when you make a new release, when you try and install it, I don't know if I can see it here. You should be able to see what code has changed.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. Do you know how to do that, Manish? I have seen it hundreds of times, and then I can't remember how to see it.
So if we go through the AI, like we will feed the AI our change log, and we expect it to write the breaking changes. So most of our work is done by the code rabbit, but I guess it's not persistent with our code base, right? It's only invoked whenever a pull request or an issue is generated. Sorry, made.
Yeah, we don't push the changelog into CodeRabbit. We have to post the code
Oh, yeah.
difference and then basically ask CodeRabbit to find what broke or what hasn't been tested.
Change.
That we
Oh,
we
yeah.
need to we need to make extra sure that the next release is safe. So
Right, right.
we can't just like release what we have in like a more better organized way. We also have to check what we have is safe and check that there's been no breaking changes, or if there has, that we have backwards compatibility in place.
So one thing I'm not getting, like if our CI/CD pipeline is working and the whatever workflows we have right now, whenever a PR is raised, so we do check that. So why don't we rely on those? Like if they are not breaking, this means that whenever there will be a release, that also won't break.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good thing to do. Like, how can we test that a new release is actually safe? The issue that we have is our tests. Currently, they just test things that we wanted to test, things that we thought would be a problem, right? Things that we were checking. But it's hard for us to understand what users are actually using and what might have broken for them. So we can try and improve our like unit tests and integration tests, which will always run on new releases. And that's going to check like if anything that we were expecting broke, but it won't necessarily pick up on the things that users need. So we always kind of have like that blind spot of trying to make our tests as best as possible. We could definitely have like extra checks when there's a new release, but the problem is like, what would those tests look like? So yeah, I opened that for discussion. When we make a new release, we can definitely run like new workflows and things, but all the workflows that we have will probably like already run on that new release. So it would just be like what additional workflows. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any ideas.
Is there a way to run like a workflow that will check the dependency? I'm trying to think of the word, like dependency correctness in the sense, making sure that it's still supported, making sure that if the version is not supported, that it logs something letting us know, hey, this needs to be changed. This SHA has either been outdated or maybe it's changed. Maybe the location of this is not correct anymore. I'm not sure if that would be doable. It would be something that I personally would want to check, especially when it comes to updating these dependencies. My thinking is that if there isn't a way, or if there was no testing done to ensure the dependencies are compatible, can we get maybe like a workflow to do this and then just let us know if it is or if it isn't, and then we'll go from there. Not necessarily maybe giving it the ability to change the dependency, more or less just making us aware, possibly.
Yeah, so manage maybe like the minimum and maximum build that we were talking about. Maybe the trigger for that could be if you change Pi project, but maybe the second trigger could be if there's a tag for a new version or something. And then I
Yeah,
think,
like a new release.
yeah, but I think, yeah, because sometimes you don't change Pi project, you just do a new release, and then the
I think
workflow.
like that can be done.
Yeah, okay, let's write that down. Is there any other workflow that we can make for a new release? Is it possible to prompt CodeRabbit on a new release?
It may be. We'd have to update the instructions and test it. I don't see why not, but it's not something I've tried before.
Okay, that might be like the best thing to work on.
Oh, can Copilot do that?
So Copilot is flaky because Copilot only applies to people that have ticked the Copilot box. It's an
Okay.
individual decision, whereas CodeRabbit is applicable to everybody.
Okay. Yeah, I think CodeRabbit would be a great addition. We would just have to figure out how to prompt it, I guess, to take a look at these. The other idea I had for the next release is maybe doing releases like minor, like every couple of months, maybe. That way it reduces like the amount of changes in there, in the sense that there aren't going to be like 100 changes all at once. Maybe there's just like a select few. Is that something we
Yeah,
would want to do?
that's the optimal way. Like I'm a fan of doing things like every couple of weeks.
Okay.
The issue is that we run into Christmas, and
Yes.
normally we need two maintainers to do a release because we need like another one to approve it and everything. So yeah.
Uh,
But now we have
us,
three maintainers, so I think like going forward, most of our releases should be probably every 2 weeks, and then we won't have this massive problem that often.
yeah, I'd say every two or three, just in case there's a week where maybe somebody can't get to it. But yeah, as frequently as possible would be my
Yeah.
suggestion.
I actually with these changes, I don't know if we manage. And like for example, do you still think we need to do a 0.2
Uh,
release?
so like I think like it should be like 0.2 because like we have a
Yeah,
lot of changes.
yeah. Okay, to just warn people as well. But also like I think we have a lot of changes, but also we have really sophisticated changes like that. Like we've changed, for example, how nodes work and the TLS and things. We haven't just added like functionality to transactions. We've changed the way
Yeah.
some of the core logic works. Okay. All right. I'm gonna paste all these into the Linux chat then. I think like it's good if everyone kind of stays up to date with what the actions are. Angie, I guess you're quite busy, right? You don't have availability to check like the Windows build or create like a Windows workflow or something to complement Manish's PR.
I can try and see what I come up with. I don't know if I'll encounter the same issues as, say, a new Windows user, just because I already have some of the dependencies.
Okay.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think
You
a
have to create like
DT.
a virtual environment and then just start it from scratch, but that sounds painful. Yeah, I agree with you.
On Windows, creating a virtual environment is not as much, it's not as appealing as it is on a MacBook. I would love to do it on a MacBook. It's so much quicker, it's so faster, and it's so much easier. On Windows, it's doable. It's just it's a painstaking process, so to speak. Um, so I'm thinking it may actually be better to have a brand new Windows user, or just maybe a Windows user that doesn't have all of these dependencies quite yet, because I would like to see what kind of errors they run into now with this new version released. Again, I can try it. I just don't know if I would be able to provide as much insight because I have some of these already. Um,
Might not be able to
but
do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll follow what Manish is doing. I'll keep an eye on it. I'll see if there's a way that I can. If not, I think a DTIA may be better suited, just because I don't believe he has all of the dependencies yet. I'll reach out to him and ask him and see what he has, because I am not sure how far into the Python SDK setup process he's gotten. I would say pretty far. I have seen a few of his pull requests, so if not him, maybe it would just be him and I trying to come up with something. But he is on a Windows 11, so he may have an easier time spinning up a virtual environment on there.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, Manish, I think we are kind of riding on your PR. I can try and work on the Code Rabbit investigation for the release. And just other things that are important for the SDK at the moment are these prompt things, but I know we're all busy and we probably won't be able to work on them at least for a long time. But I think this is like a nice new focus. I've noticed our pull requests are actually increasing, they're not decreasing. And what's happening now is like people are getting more and more experienced. So instead of like submitting just good first issues, we have quite a few pull requests that are actually intermediate or advanced. And each of them can easily like take 5 hours to like review. So we kind of have like we have a problem. This is why I think that this is quite important. I know Adit, you like Adit just left. Adit's been waiting already a couple of weeks, I think, for his PR. But yeah, there's just not enough time. So
Um,
yeah,
I
key priorities, I would say let's do a release. Let's prompt Code Rabbit, and then if anyone has free time, we got to do reviews. But I think this is just going to keep growing and growing and growing because we're not fast enough yet. So we're just gonna have to get used to. We might have to increase like the number of concurrent issues you can work on. because some people like have done everything they can, they're waiting for feedback, and they're stuck from working on another issue. So that's just something to think about. And the other thing to think about is like, what are we going to do with the changelog for the next version? Are we going to it's really easy for new starters in the C++ SDK and the website SDK because they don't require changelogs.
Oh, yes, I remember we had been debating this. I am on the side of if we're going to keep the changelog, I would say just limiting it to source changes. The documentation changes, yes, they are important, but in my opinion, they're a little bit more user facing in the sense that users can see the documentation. They don't necessarily need to be aware that it's been updated. It is nice for us to know that it's been updated. This way we have the most current info for those users who are getting started. But yeah, if we're on the side of keeping it, I would say to just limit it to maybe source changes. Manish, what do you think? Oh, agree? Okay. So Sophie, what do you think? I thought you had said you were on the side of source, is that right? Or did you want it to include just a bit more?
Yeah, sources may be most essential.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Like it's useful to know what's changed in tests, but it's useful for us
Yeah, yeah.
more than anything to like be able to look back in time and notice that okay, this is what happened in the Python SDK. We're gonna lose that knowledge, especially if our releases take 2 months. We're gonna in 2 months' time, we're gonna be like, what actually changing up? Like, because people when they download a new release, they're gonna see difference. They're gonna see like what 0.110 had and what 0.11 has. And they're going to see maybe like tons of changes to tests, tons of changes to examples, docs, and they have no guidance as to like what that meant at all. So I think like end users, they want to know what are they going to get impacted by, but they also kind of want to have like this safety, like, oh, all these other things that aren't really related to the source code changes, right? I wasn't expecting like test ABC to be changed. I'm seeing tons of changes to test ABC, but you guys told me you only change, you know, Freddy source. So like
Mm-hmm.
maybe I don't know. I'm not sure with that yet. But yeah, the changelog conflicts and stuff is pretty annoying. Also, when you create a new release, GitHub automatically generates changes, but it doesn't do it that well. So let me show you what happens. So if I do 0.11, let's say, for the recent commit, it's going to generate these release notes, but it doesn't do it from our changelog entry. It does it from the way that people labeled their most recent commit, because we squashed their entire PR into their most recent commit. So I don't know about you, but I'm pretty bad at naming my commits, my final commit that well. Or it's the title. Actually, I don't know. But you're gonna see all of these hundreds of lines of changes anyway in the release notes, unless I delete them. But then I have to separate the source code changes from the other ones and not delete. So I don't really see like a way around the massive amounts of information.
Does that happen if you do this more frequently, or is that only happening because we just did something very large?
Yeah, if you look at the previous releases, what I've done is I've actually reorganized the thing manually. Like I look at like
Yeah.
entire list, and I split it up into like, these are the new features, these are the fixes, these are the workflow things in the docs.
Okay.
And sometimes I have to rename some of these because that, like, sometimes it looks like I've changed a source code thing, but actually it was an example, but the person didn't like label it correctly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So sometimes it reads really scary, like refactored token associate transaction. And so that kind of thing happens through the automatic system of GitHub because it's doing it by the title, and we're not as good as titles as we are with changelog entries, for example. Yeah, so I don't really have a good solution. But anyway, we're out of time.
Yes, we are. Okay, so this was a pretty good discussion. I guess we will pick this up next time when we meet back up again in 2 weeks. For now, I do think we have some pretty good action points, definitely. Manish, we will keep an eye out for your PR. I will see if Aditya is able to spin up the virtual environment. Beyond that, I think we're pretty much good to go.
Yep, I'll do some code rabbit prompting.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Andy.
much.
Thanks, Manish. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.